The question of should I take teleport or ignite has been a heavy topic of debate over the past few years for top laners. Today we're going to be tackling this debate from both sides of the argument, and hopefully this will help you choose which spell that you should be taking more often in the top lane. We've got a lot to cover in this video, so grab a snack, get some water, get comfy, and let's get right into it. Before we do, however, make sure you check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we've got hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses, so if that is something that interests you, then make sure to check us out using the link in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get into this monster topic. And I want to first approach taking teleport in the top lane because this is kind of what's considered the standard in higher elo. Now, there are a few things that we need to address that makes the game fundamentally different at higher elo that will result in teleport being a better spell. And the first and foremost biggest issue as to why you can't really take anything aside from teleport in the top lane in high elo like Diamond Plus is that the game is not really a solo carryable game at the moment. Yeah, there might be some games where you just pop off, get 20 kills, go 20-0 on Irelia, and you solo carry the game, but that's not a consistent way to play the game. You can't rely on this. Now, this is not to say that there aren't top lane solo carry challenger gods out there. Of course there are, but chances are if you're watching this video, then you are not one of them. Now, the way most of us high elo top laners play around this is just by taking teleport so that we can extend our lead elsewhere on the map. We can use it to 4-man bot lane, we can use it to counter gank bot lane, we can use it to get dragons, we can use it to save our lane state. There are so many different usages of it that will help our team out. The second fundamental that makes teleport a must for high elo is the fact that EXP is king. Now, if you watch a lot of my content on the top lane, then you'll know that I absolutely preach that minions are by far the most important thing in the top lane. They drive trades, and on top of that, they're your main source of income. So if you're able to control the minions, then you're able to control the lane. Teleport is going to allow you to do this a lot better than Ignite or Ghost is. The fact of the matter is that teleport is insanely overtuned for returning to the lane, especially in the early game, because minions are so valuable in the early game. Even if you get solo killed in the top lane by somebody who took Ignite, if you're able to teleport back to a favorable lane, then you're actually at an advantage even though you died solo. This is an example that I actually get asked about a lot, and I see all the time in platinum and low diamond elos where half of the top laners are taking Ignite and half of them are taking teleport. A lot of the time, the Ignite top laner will take a very heavy trade at level 2 and be able to score a solo kill simply because they took Ignite. But this does not mean that they secured themselves a lead. These two things are completely different. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that simply because you scored an early kill on your lane that you won the lane. This is not at all true. Winning the lane means that you leave the laning phase with a huge advantage. This is either an EXP or gold. I could leave the lane 0, 3, and 0, but up 2 levels and 50 CS and have won the lane even though I got solo killed 3 times. Scoreline does not matter. The only thing that does matter is income and pressure. So, why is teleport so much stronger than Ignite early on into the lane phase? Well, it's simply your get out of jail free card. You are allowed to make a mistake if you take teleport and have it be a mistake that's so bad that you die as long as you're able to return to the lane and put it in a favorable lane state. Did you die level 2 to Ignite Talon top lane after taking a close trade? Even if you did, it's okay. Teleport back to the wave, freeze it in front of your tower, he's going to be forced to base, and by the time he gets back, you're actually going to be up a level and CS. If you're able to even avoid dying, this makes teleport that much better. This means they didn't get any EXP or gold from killing you, and they're still going to be forced to base while you have the lane in a favorable spot. So, teleport vastly outperforms Ignite in the early laning phase, and it outperforms Ignite as far as your ability to impact the map and helping your team out. The last thing that teleport will allow you to do is rotate from your position of power in the side lane to an objective like Baron. Now, I want to emphasize that if you do not have a position of power, teleport loses all of its value. This is because power plays are made off of getting an objective without giving anything up for it. If you do not have priority in the side lane, if you're not pressuring some sort of objective and instead you're the one getting pushed in with teleport up, this means that you're going to trade an objective for it, and you might even trade, for example, inhib for Baron. This makes your Baron a lot less useful. But if you're the one pressuring and you're doing Baron, you can teleport to Baron without worrying about losing anything. So what does this mean for Ignite versus Teleport in the late game? They're going to fill the same niche in the bot lane, even though everyone thinks that they are fighting for two different things. The only thing that you are fighting for in the late game is priority in that bot lane while your team wants to do Baron. If Ignite is going to give you permanent priority in the bot lane, then suddenly their teleport advantage means a lot less. Now, of course, you can always make a teleport play, flank the enemy team, make a 5v4 happen, and get an objective for that. But remember that while you're doing that, your Ignite counterpart is going to be pushing the side lane. After you make your teleport play happen, the only thing you can hope for is that your team is going to be able to win. If you ignore somebody who's just split pushing down the side lane and let them get objectives for free, unless you can end the game, they're going to come out with an advantage. You have to go back and match that eventually without teleport advantage, which is going to make it so that you have to put some trust in your team. Now, I do want to wrap up with teleport here because we still do have to talk about a whole lot of stuff when it comes to Ignite. I do think that teleport is easier to use in the laning phase simply because it's going to cover for bigger mistakes. Yes, Ignite is very straightforward, you just use it on the enemy champion, but if you mess up with Ignite, your lane phase is over. If you mess up with teleport, you still have a chance. This is what I think makes teleport significantly stronger than Ignite in the laning phase. It doesn't do damage, but it does give you a get out of jail free card. Now, that being said, if you are not using teleport to its fullest extent in the mid and late game, and you're not impacting the rest of the map, extending your lead to your allies or making Baron plays happen, then you should probably not be taking it. If you're just using it to return to lane, it's probably not the best spell in your arsenal. If you're new to using teleport, then try using it in creative ways once the lane phase has ended. The only way that you're going to get better at using teleport is by using it in different ways. So try whatever you want and see how it works. Okay, so moving on to the second portion of this argument, Ignite top laners. Now, this can apply to multiple different summoner spells, but basically it's anything aside from TP, any sort of combat summoner spell. This could be heal, ignite, barrier, exhaust, cleanse. Really, I mean, you could take anything top lane, but I would recommend sticking to either Ignite or Ghost. Ignite and Ghost are going to be the best combat summoner spells in the majority of your games, so we're going to talk about these ones specifically. If you were paying attention earlier in the video, I mentioned that us challenger top laners typically will only take teleport, but there are a few examples of some challenger top laners that will exclusively take Ignite. My favorite example of a top laner that takes Ignite frequently is a Tryndamere main on the NA server named Fogged for the Win. Now, he has taken Ignite exclusively for the past 3 or 4 years and been challenger this entire time, while teleport has been the dominant spell. So how is he able to make this work? Well, first of all, he doesn't fall into any of the traps that Ignite kind of baits you into early on into the game. And second of all, his side laning is so strong and well disciplined that he does not need teleport to make it work. This is because he understands one of the topics that I mentioned earlier, which is the fact that if you take Ignite and you sit in the side lane, you do not want to collapse to objectives. Instead, you want to use that summoner spell advantage, the combat summoner spell, to draw pressure. You want to put as much pressure onto the enemy side laner as you possibly can. Remember that Ignite's disadvantage later on into the game is that you cannot use it to rotate to objectives like Dragon and Baron later on into the game, but you can use Ignite to, for further disable the enemy top laner from also rotating to that dragon or baron. By laying the pressure on thick, you're able to keep the enemy top laner in the same lane as you, make it a 4v4 at the objective, so at least your team isn't at a disadvantage. Now, if you're able to circumvent the weaknesses of Ignite, then you're really able to play towards the strengths of it with no real drawbacks. Now, the other time that Ignite is going to be especially weak is actually at the early levels, and this might not make sense to a lot of you, but bear with me. While Ignite will give you a combat advantage at levels 1, 2, and 3, even if you secure a kill at levels 1, 2, and 3, if you're forced to go back with an unfavorable lane state, then that kill is not actually worth it for you. This is because the death timers at levels 1, 2, and 3 are not long enough for you to properly capitalize on that kill. They're going to be respawning in a few seconds, and then they're going to teleport right back towards top lane. And even if they didn't take teleport, they're going to run back towards top lane, and you won't have time to recall and run back and beat them back. So how can we prevent ourselves from falling into this classic trap? The most important thing is to take care of the wave at levels 1 through 4 before deciding on any engage. If you're able to kill the enemy top laner without losing any HP, and you're able to stay in your lane to continue pushing it to the tower or freezing it or whatever you want to do with the wave, then going for a kill in that scenario is okay at levels 1 through 3, but pretty much any other scenario, it's not going to be worth your while. However, if you are taking care of the wave first, then you actually open yourself up to being able to use that Ignite at levels 1 through 3. And there are a few ways that you can do this and guarantee that you get an advantage off of the Ignite. The first thing that you can do is just freeze the wave from level 1. This means that you're letting the minions push into you by either not hitting the minions and letting the enemy top laner hit the minions a little bit more than you do, or by running into the enemy minions before they crash at level 1, letting them stack a little bit, which will cause a natural freeze towards you. This freezing tactic is not something that I would really recommend for most champions. I would only do it if you're playing something ranged that can dip in and out of brushes, drop minion aggro, and trade from range without taking a bunch of damage, and keep the freeze going, or if you're playing something that's a bruiser and can all in 100 to 0 kill somebody at level 3 inside of a frozen wave like, say, Renekton. Now, if these examples sound pretty specific, it's because they are very specific. There are not very many champions that actually want to freeze from level 1 with Ignite. Instead, the better option in most of your games is to slow push and prep a dive at level 3. The way that you want to go about doing this is by starting a slow push at levels 1 and 2. On the first 2 waves, just slowly auto-attack the minions, use your abilities on the minions if you have to, if the enemy top laner is trying to contest you for that push, and trade with the enemy top laner, but do it lightly. You want to make sure that you have enough HP to perform a dive, and that they're low enough HP that they're killable, but not so low that they'll back. Now, by the time the 3rd wave comes, this is when you want to crash it into the enemy tower and perform your dive. If your jungler is there to help you out with a dive, all the better for you, but if not, you should be confident in doing it 1v1. Now, obviously, your ability to dive is going to be dependent on matchup. If you're playing Riven into Renekton, you probably can't dive him at level 3, alright? But if you can win the matchup at level 3 and a dive is looking like a possibility, then oftentimes diving with your Ignite is going to be better than going for a kill at level 2. This is because you're able to deny as many minions to the enemy tower while they're dead as possible, and on top of that, you don't get put into a bad situation where they're able to just teleport back to the wave and freeze it. That wave that crashes into the enemy tower is going to push back to you. Now, from levels 4 or 5 all the way up until Baron spawns and is a threat, Ignite is pretty straightforward to use. You just need to worry about that early game and later on into the game. If you don't fall into the classic traps in those stages of the game, then Ignite can be used very efficiently, even up until Challenger. Speaking of Challenger, if you are looking for more Challenger guides just like this one, then make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. Over there, we've got hundreds of guides, all done by Challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We've got courses both on the 5 fundamental roles, as well as champion-specific courses, and we're constantly updating outdated courses and adding new ones. So if that is something that interests you, then make sure to check it out using the link in the description below. As always, I'm Panther, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.